Hi, my name is Liv, and welcome to Blade of Desire. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about the month of March and the astrology that's going to go along with it. It's a pretty packed month, if I'm being totally honest, and there's a lot of things to just kind of be aware of, so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I always like to review the next month at the end of every month because it's a good way to just get an idea of how I might be feeling for the month or what I might be doing, that kind of thing. So it's never something you have to do, but it is just kind of fun to look at and see what events are coming up. Our first item to discuss happens on the 2nd of the month. On the 2nd, Venus is going to go retrograde again. I know. Yeah, I hate it too, but it has to happen. It just really does. Venus is going in retrograde in the sign of Aries, and what that's going to mean and how you're going to be feeling is anytime a planet is in retrograde, that means that you're kind of going inward about the struggles or the facets of that planet. So Venus is all about love and pleasure in our relationships and the material things we find joy in. So think of all those topics and just prepare yourself. You might be going inward about a lot of those things and just kind of reconsidering your philosophies. Because it's in Aries, be careful to not get too impulsive about these thoughts, because most likely when Venus goes direct again, you're going to get some kind of clarity, get some sort of answer, and that's kind of when you want to act on that. So if you're struggling with wanting to make some sort of impulsive decision, maybe just give it a second and see what happens, and then that's when you know you made the right choice. On the 2nd of the month, the Sun is also going to square Jupiter. Because it's squaring Jupiter, this isn't always the most harmonious energy, but that's okay. It just means that maybe your ideas of yourself are going to shift a little bit during this time, or you're going to be challenged by your sense of self in some way. So it's not a negative thing no matter what. It just means that you're going to be forced to look at yourself differently and notice new changes maybe, or think about yourself in relation to what Jupiter represents in astrology. Because this is occurring in the sign of Pisces, just really lean into that intuitive energy during this time and be careful to not get too stuck in your imagination. So if you're having a lot of negative thoughts during this time, remember that it'll pass, don't act on it, and just let yourself feel those emotions. On the 8th of March, the Sun will trine Mars in the sign of Pisces as well. This is a really great transit. In my opinion, it just means that we're going to be pushed during this time to be our best selves, to put our best foot forward, and to really embrace that fiery, impulsive energy of Aries, because they are go-getting, they're all about what they want, and I just think it's great. Because it's happening in the sign of Pisces, again, that's really different energy than what we're getting from Mars, which is ruled by Aries. So just be careful to balance your emotions with your actions during this time. Make sure, again, kind of highlighting a lot of themes of not making impulsive decisions this month and just going with the flow. That's what's most important. On the 12th of March, the Sun will conjunct Saturn in the sign of Pisces. During this time, because Saturn rules over our daily routines and laws and structure, you're going to feel a lot of emphasis on routine in your daily life. So during this time, you might be really focused in on, doing your workout every day, getting your steps in. All those little habits and routines you set up for yourself are what's going to make you feel the best. Because this is happening in the sign of Pisces, lean into your intuition during this time and do what feels right for you. Don't overwork yourself. Don't stress yourself out. I think that Pisces energy really will just calm down how strong-minded and forceful Saturn can be at times. On the 14th of the month, we're going to have a full moon in the sign of Virgo. This is also happening at the same time, of course, as the lunar eclipse, which is, of course, occurring in the sign of Virgo as well. Again, we're kind of seeing this pattern of routines. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is all about routines, habits, patterns. So this happening when there's a lunar eclipse means that we're really going to be highlighting and focusing on these energies in our life. One thing I want to say though is that Virgo typically rules over the idea of perfectionism as kind of a shadow trait of the sign. So be careful to not get too stuck with the idea of perfection during this time. Let things happen as they happen. Practice letting go and leaning into that softer moon sign, and that is what will get you through this period. On the 15th of the month, Mercury will also be going retrograde. This is what I mean by it's kind of a heavy month, folks. But that's okay, we're going to make it through. We surely will. Mercury going retrograde represents how we may turn inward with our emotions relating to the planet of Mercury. So think short distance travel, technology, communications. That's why we usually see a lot of misunderstandings and mishaps during this period, because it relates directly to turning our thinking and our beliefs inside. So there's just a lot of internal turmoil going on, and that happens to clash with others, which is why Mercury retrograde in general is just such a popularized term in astrology. It's happening in the sign of Aries, so like I've said earlier, just be careful to not be too impulsive during this time. Think through your words and your actions and your thoughts before you speak them out loud to another person, because that's what's really going to matter during this time. On the 17th, the sun is going to conjunct the North Node, which personally is like one of my favorite transits. I think it's great. The sun conjuncting the North Node means that there's going to be a big focus on yourself and what you put out into the world, or most commonly referred to as your career, for example. So during this time, really focus on what you're putting into the world, whether that's for work or creatively, and really ask yourself if it's aligning with your true self. If not, what steps do you need to take to get there? That's what this transit will really show you. This is occurring in the sign of Pisces, so really trust your intuition during this time and listen to that emotional side of yourself. What are you being pulled to do? Listen to that. It will never do you wrong. On the 19th, the sun conjuncts Neptune, also in the sign of Pisces. This is really dreamy and fun and exciting energy. Anything to do with Neptune I love, because it rules spirituality and philosophy and intuition and just all of those dreamy ideas. During this time, you'll probably feel way more tuned into yourself and your body and the world. So listen to that energy. This is heavy energy because it's happening in Pisces as well. So your intuition is going to feel strong, and if you're forced to listen to it, this is the time to do so. On the 20th, we enter Aries season, so the sun will be entering Aries. Of course, everyone kind of understands sun sign astrology more, so I won't go too in depth, but we're going to be seeing the themes of Aries show up a lot during this period. So think that go-getting, motivated, determined energy, that's what we're going to see so much of. Personally, I love Aries season. I'm an Aries moon, and I have an Aries Mars. So I think they're just really important times for me when it is Aries season to really take action and go after what I want. On the 23rd, the sun will conjunct Venus, and this is happening in the sign of Aries. So what that's going to mean is that you're going to see a lot of the material world and pleasure that you derive from material items, as well as your relationships and partnerships and all of that good stuff. That's going to impact your core self and how you feel about yourself during this time. And because it's occurring in the sign of Aries, just be careful if you want to go on a big shopping spree during this time. Don't purchase anything too impulsively. I think that's kind of the warning that Aries gives here. Just find that balance. Again, treat yourself, but don't go too far. On the 23rd, the sun will be sextile to Pluto, and this is happening in the sign of Aries as well. During this time, you might be faced with sudden decisions or changes or transformations. Don't be afraid of this. It's going to help you ultimately. It's basically just forcing you to go through certain life events, because Pluto is such a powerful planet, to better yourself, your identity, your sense of self. Because it's in the sign of Aries, just don't go any direction without really considering it. Don't choose too impulsively. It's important to be aware of all your options and know that a solution is always at hand. On the 27th, Lilith will enter Scorpio, which is exciting and feisty. Lilith is all about our shadow side, sensuality, sexuality, all of those fun things that we usually don't talk about as much. It's a very deep sign. There's a lot of shadow work to be done with your Lilith placement. It's really great to know your Lilith placement if you're getting into astrology, because it can tell you so much about like your wounds and your deeper self. And I just think that's really cool. That's something that hooked me with astrology immediately. So I do recommend, if you're a beginner or more early on to it, that you should definitely check out your Lilith sign, because it might reveal a lot to you that you may have not even realized about yourself. During this time, I really also recommend looking into where Scorpio is in your chart. Whatever house that it's in, that's going to explain a lot better how you might see these themes show up. On the 27th, Venus, because it's still retrograde at this time, is going to leave the sign of Aries and go back into Pisces. So during this time, you're going to go from this fiery Aries sign to this really intuitive, imaginative Pisces. So you might feel a shift with your relationships. They might soften up a little bit. You guys might have deeper conversations. Anything like that that relates to Pisces, that's what we'll see. And then on the 29th, we're having a solar eclipse / a new moon in Aries. Yeah, isn't that kind of like going out with a bang? Like, that's crazy, in my opinion. Not to mention 2 eclipses in 1 month. I am praying for all of us. So Aries rules over the first house in astrology. So what I wrote down for this eclipse is I really figured that we will have a lot of revelations and realizations about our core self and our identity and what we're doing about it. What actions are we taking to be our best selves? That's what we're worried about during this time. And a little tip for you all, if you want to figure out what themes of your life you'll be seeing during any new moon or full moon, always go back and look at the last full moon or new moon in that sign. There should be some theme or idea that you were really focused in on, and then once the next eclipse or the next new or full moon happens, then that's when we see the results of that. That's when we see the chapter close and things take care of themselves. So I always recommend that. Maybe go through your photos or something and see where you were around that date of the last. For example, this is a new moon in Aries, so you would want to look at the last full moon in Aries. And then on the 30th, Mercury is going to leave Aries and go back into Pisces because it's also still in retrograde. So again, we're going from such a fire sign to such a water sign, so you might feel yourself and your inner beliefs kind of shift back and forth during this time. Just be careful. Don't let your intuition or your imagination or anything get too heavy on you. Just roll through the time. It will eventually go back into Pisces and things will feel a lot better again. Okay, so that was the month of March with me. I really hope you guys enjoyed a lot, and I hope really that you learned something or are able to take something from this. It's going to be a packed month. It really is. So I hope that kind of helped to better prepare you all and get you ready for March. As always, I'll be back with a new video so soon, but I hope you guys enjoyed so much, and until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.